I'm a big fan of yours. I'm really excited to meet you.
well, thank you.
Quentin Tarantino doesn't stop working with actors. He erases them. No goodbye, no second chances. One wrong move, and you're not just off the set. You're wiped from his cinematic universe forever.
And there's been actually almost no competition to show him that there can be anything else.
After all, Tarantino doesn't just make movies. He creates worlds where every line, every beat, every actor matters. Step out of rhythm, and you're not just recast, you're erased. Over 3 decades, he's built a universe filled with legends. John Travolta, Samuel L. Jackson, Uma Thurman. But not everyone made the cut. Some actors, despite talent, fame, or early promise, never returned. Today, we're counting 6 actors Quentin Tarantino locked out of his cinematic universe and why he never looked back. And the first fallout happened before Tarantino was even famous.
The first actor to learn this lesson didn't cross Quentin Tarantino at the peak of his power. He crossed him at the very beginning. Lawrence Tierney was cast in Reservoir Dogs as Joe Cabot, the hardened crime boss who anchors the entire story. A noir-era legend with a reputation for menace. Tierney felt like the perfect choice for Tarantino's first feature. But once filming began, the situation spiraled fast. Lawrence wasn't just difficult, he was unpredictable. Lines were forgotten. Arguments broke out without warning. Crew members didn't know which version of him would show up each day. The tension was constant, and it infected the entire set. What should have been a focused, controlled shoot turned into a daily gamble. Everything came to a head during a heated argument over how a scene should be staged. Voices were raised. Tierney stormed off set. Tarantino followed him outside and fired him on the spot. At just 29 years old, directing his first movie, Tarantino could have backed down. Instead, he made a decision that would define his career. Talent didn't outweigh control. Experience didn't override authority. If the vibe went toxic, it was over. Other cast members later confirmed how disruptive Tierney's presence had been. The energy shifted immediately after he was gone. The film moved forward, and when Reservoir Dogs exploded into a cult phenomenon, something was noticeably missing. Tarantino almost never talked about Lawrence Tierney again. No stories, no praise, no acknowledgement, just silence. And that silence sent a message through Hollywood. Once Quentin Tarantino cuts you off, there is no way back. But Tierney was only the beginning, because the next actor Tarantino erased wasn't unstable. He was a superstar.
When Pulp Fiction hit theaters in 1994, it didn't just change independent film, it revived careers. For Bruce Willis, that mattered more than anyone realized at the time. His box office momentum had cooled, critics were circling, and his image was starting to feel stale. Tarantino didn't just cast him, he handed him a reset. On screen, Willis delivered. Off screen, something never clicked. Bruce Willis was used to running sets, improvising, tweaking lines, letting star instinct guide the moment. But Tarantino's scripts aren't suggestions. Every pause, every beat, every word is deliberate, and Willis didn't always follow that rhythm. Crew members later hinted that Tarantino found Willis unreliable, too self-aware, too conscious of his own image, while actors like John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson disappeared into their roles and bonded tightly with Tarantino. Willis stayed separate, professional but distant. There was no blow-up, no screaming match, just a quiet disconnect, and in Tarantino's world, that's enough. After Pulp Fiction, Tarantino built a recurring family of actors, people he trusted completely. Willis was never invited back. No cameo, no supporting role, not even a conversation about future projects. What made it stranger was the silence. Tarantino rarely mentioned Willis in interviews. When he praised the cast of Pulp Fiction, Bruce's name was usually absent, not criticized, not acknowledged. Willis didn't complain publicly. He stayed diplomatic, but he also never leaned into Pulp Fiction as a defining comeback moment, something most actors would celebrate for life. In Tarantino's universe, loyalty creates legacy. Miss the rhythm, and you don't get a second act. And unlike Willis, the next fallout didn't stay quiet.
On paper, George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino should have been long-term collaborators. They worked together on From Dusk Till Dawn, a violent, genre-bending crime film that helped redefine Clooney's career after television. The movie became a cult favorite, and Clooney proved he could carry something darker, stranger, and riskier than anyone expected. But the partnership ended there. Years later, Tarantino didn't just drift away from Clooney, he dismissed him publicly. In an interview, Tarantino bluntly said George Clooney wasn't a real movie star. No nuance, no build-up, just a flat dismissal. He even challenged people to name any truly great Clooney films made after the early 2000s, as if his career hadn't existed at all. Clooney didn't let it slide. He fired back, defending his body of work and pointing to films like Ocean's 11, Syriana, and Michael Clayton. The exchange wasn't explosive, it was icy, and once the respect was gone, so was the relationship. Tarantino's criticism wasn't random. He values actors who disappear into roles, not ones who carry polished charisma into every scene. To him, Clooney felt too smooth, too safe, too Hollywood, not dangerous enough for a world built on tension, grime, and unpredictability. After From Dusk Till Dawn, Clooney never appeared in another Tarantino project. No cameo, no script, not even a rumor of a reunion. And considering how often Tarantino reuses actors across decades, that absence says everything. Clooney's career didn't suffer. He won awards, directed films, built a legacy. But in Tarantino's world, he became invisible. Not erased by anger, erased by dismissal. And the next fallout wasn't about ego or stardom at all. It was about who gets to tell certain stories and who doesn't.
This wasn't a casting disagreement. This was a public collision between two powerful voices in film. Spike Lee has never been quiet about his opinions, and when Jackie Brown was released, he went straight for Tarantino's throat. Lee criticized Tarantino's repeated use of the N-word, accusing him of being obsessed with it and questioning his place in telling certain stories. It wasn't framed as friendly critique, it was an accusation. Tarantino fired back without hesitation. He defended Jackie Brown aggressively and rejected the idea that any artist had the right to police another's language. The response wasn't diplomatic, it was confrontational, and when Tarantino told Spike Lee to shut the F up, the divide became permanent. But that was only the opening round. When Django Unchained premiered years later, the feud reignited at full force. Spike Lee condemned the film outright, calling it disrespectful to his ancestors and refusing to watch it at all. Tarantino didn't soften, he doubled down. He dismissed Lee's criticism completely and went further, implying that Lee's anger came from jealousy, that Tarantino was making the kinds of films Lee wished he could. The comment landed hard and burned any remaining bridge. From that moment on, there was no reconciliation, no shared panels, no mutual praise, no collaboration. Two of the most influential filmmakers of their generation moved forward as if the other didn't exist. Tarantino has worked with actors from every background and genre, but never once reached into Spike Lee's creative circle, not out of oversight, out of principle. This wasn't about one film or one word. It was about ownership of stories and refusal to back down. And while this feud exploded in public, the next erasure happened quietly, so quietly that most people didn't even notice it happening.
Steve Buscemi should have been a Tarantino regular. As Mr. Pink in Reservoir Dogs, he delivered one of the most memorable performances in the film. The energy, the rhythm, the infamous tipping argument that opened the movie, it all felt perfectly aligned with Tarantino's voice. And then, nothing. While actors like Michael Madsen and Tim Roth kept returning, Buscemi quietly vanished from Tarantino's world. No follow-up role, no cameo, no collaboration. For a director known for recycling his favorite talent, the silence was strange. Over the years, rumors started circulating about why. One long-standing theory ties back to that tipping scene. Some crew members have claimed the argument wasn't just written for the character, it was inspired by a real off-camera conversation. Buscemi allegedly shared similar views during the shoot, and Tarantino didn't find it amusing. There's even a story that Tarantino later joked Buscemi would have to play a waiter if he ever wanted back into one of his films. It sounded like humor. It didn't land that way. When asked directly why Buscemi wasn't brought back for later projects like Pulp Fiction or Kill Bill, Tarantino gave a cold non-answer. Sometimes people get one shot. That's the story. Buscemi never complained publicly. He built an acclaimed career elsewhere, delivering standout performances in Fargo, Boardwalk Empire, and dozens of films. But he never re-entered Tarantino's orbit, and that's what made it eerie. No feud, no argument, just quiet removal. In Tarantino's universe, not every grudge explodes. Some simply fade until an actor's name disappears from the casting board forever, and the final fallout proves just how absolute Tarantino's control. Then there was Warren Beatty. He was almost Bill, the iconic character in Kill Bill. Tarantino had written the role with him in mind, crafting every line, every moment of menace, every layer of tragic gravitas around Beatty's legendary presence. On paper, it was a perfect match, but it didn't last a single frame. The problem wasn't talent, it wasn't timing, it was control. Beatty, a director himself, wanted input, suggestions, tonal shifts, maybe even subtle rewrites. Tarantino wasn't having it. Kill Bill wasn't a collaboration, it was his revenge opera, and every word, every beat, every
frame belonged to him. According to David Carradine's replacement, the tension was immediate and absolute. Beatty was trying to direct the director, and Tarantino drew the line instantly. The part was quietly handed over to David Carradine. No public feud, no press release, just absence. Later, when asked why Beatty didn't return, Tarantino's response was simple. It wasn't going to work. I needed someone who understood it wasn't their story. That single sentence said everything. Beatty never spoke out. No bitterness, no interviews, just silence. He moved on. Tarantino moved on, and the project regained its rhythm, the cast fitting perfectly into the director's vision. This final case illustrates the principle that governs every casting choice Tarantino makes. Creative submission is non-negotiable. Step out of line and you're gone permanently. No rewrites, no second chances, no exceptions. Not for legends, not for stars, not for anyone. And that rule explains every erasure we've seen so far.
Warren Beatty was almost Bill, not a random choice. Tarantino wrote the role in Kill Bill with him in mind, tailoring every ounce of the character's menace, poetry, and tragic gravitas around Beatty's presence. It was supposed to be a comeback, a perfect synergy of director and actor, but it never happened. Beatty wanted input, suggestions, tweaks, direction, a collaborative edge. Tarantino wasn't having it. He was creating a revenge opera, a world every line, every shot, every beat controlled by his vision. Beatty's input wasn't helpful. It was a threat. The role was quietly reassigned to David Carradine. No announcements, no public argument, just a replacement. Carradine later admitted the energy on set felt lighter once Beatty was gone, as if a weight had been lifted. Beatty never spoke out. He didn't air grievances. He didn't create headlines. He simply vanished from Tarantino's universe, and that absence spoke louder than any fight. For Tarantino, every frame, every cut, every word belongs to him. Cross that line, and you're gone. Not with drama, not with noise, just permanent absence.
From Lawrence Tierney to Warren Beatty, one thing is clear. Talent doesn't guarantee a place in Tarantino's world. Fame doesn't buy forgiveness. Star power can't override principle. Quentin Tarantino's universe is built on loyalty, rhythm, and total creative submission. Step out of line, and there's no second chance. No rewrites, no reunion, just silence. Some departures explode. Others fade quietly. But in every case, the message is unmistakable. Once Tarantino erases you, you're gone for good. In a Hollywood that thrives on comebacks and second acts, that kind of finality is rare, and it's what makes his world as thrilling as it is ruthless. Who else do you think might have crossed the line and never returned? Let us know in the comments, because in Quentin Tarantino's cinematic universe, loyalty is everything and betrayal is permanent.